Good afternoon, everyone. For too many years now, American drivers and indeed vehicle owners all around the world have had to worry about whether their car's airbags might harm them instead of protect them in a crash. This fear is unfortunately real because we know that airbag inflators made by a company called Takata are prone to explosive ruptures, sending jagged metal fragments flying through the passenger compartment. To date, these ruptures are responsible for 7 U.S. deaths and nearly 100 injuries. Over the years, in response to questions from safety regulators and its customers, Takata has said it had isolated the problem. It said it had uncovered the mistakes that led to ruptures and that it had pledged that its products were safe. But as we know, the ruptures have continued. In last June, the Department's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration opened a formal investigation into Takata's airbag inflators. Through that investigation, we have sought evidence from Takata and vehicle manufacturers, examined millions of pages of documents, and consulted with independent experts, started our own testing program, and examined test results from the industry. This May, we forced Takata to declare a defect and expand its inflator recalls by millions. And we also launched a formal public process for deciding how to make unprecedented use of our authority to speed up those recalls, as well as whether. Today, we are laying out the results of that investigation, and they are troubling. For years, Takata has built and sold defective inflators. It refused to acknowledge that they were defective. It provided incomplete, inaccurate, and misleading information to NHTSA, to the companies using its inflators, and to the public. These failures put millions of Americans at risk. I have to say, this has been a mess. And today, U.S. DOT is stepping in to clean up the mess. NHTSA has issued 2 orders to initiate a series of steps to protect the public. We're speeding up these recalls, ordering manufacturers to replace defective inflators for months, if not years, earlier than it would happen if we took no action. And we're ordering them to make sure the consumers at the greatest risk are protected. We're also addressing concerns about ammonium nitrate, the chemical Takata has used to power its inflators. We believe this chemical is a factor in these ruptures, and the combination of Takata's delays and denial, plus unexplained issues with ammonium nitrate inflators not already under recall, leave us without confidence in these products going forward. So, we are ordering Takata to phase out production of new inflators using ammonium nitrate. And unless new evidence emerges, the company will have to recall all of its ammonium nitrate inflators. Also, we are holding Takata accountable for its actions. We are imposing the largest civil penalty in NHTSA history. We are imposing additional oversight, including an independent monitor to help oversee the company's conduct. We're requiring significant changes in the company's safety practices and culture. In addition to that, the company is dismissing some of its employees as a result of our investigation. These steps can't reverse the harm these inflators have caused, but they make clear that such behavior will not be tolerated. I want to acknowledge that Takata has committed to taking significant steps to address this crisis, that automakers have given NHTSA significant cooperation in developing the coordinated remedy plan, Dr. Roskine will talk about that shortly, that industry's continued cooperation will be essential as U.S. DOT works to clean up this problem. But let me say this too. We shouldn't even be here. DOT should not have to place itself in the middle of a massive safety recall. Record-setting civil penalties are not something to brag about, and American drivers should not have to worry that a device designed to save their life might actually take it. Delay, misdirection, and refusal to acknowledge the truth allowed a serious problem to become a massive crisis. And that has left U.S. DOT with no choice but to take the unprecedented steps we're taking today to protect the public. I want consumers to know that this department is committed to using all of our authority to protect them. And I hope the auto industry will take notice of the damage this crisis has done, damage to corporate reputations, to corporate bottom lines, as well as to innocent Americans who've been injured or killed by these inflators. With that, I'm going to hand it over to NHTSA Administrator Dr. Mike Roskine to give you more detail on the actions we're taking today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The Secretary has just laid out the why of NHTSA's actions today, and so now I'm going to give you more detail on the what and when. Today, NHTSA has issued 2 orders to address the Takata inflator situation. 1, the Coordinated Remedy Order invokes the agency's authority to accelerate defect remedies under certain conditions. It orders the 12 manufacturers that have issued Takata recalls to complete those recalls on an accelerated schedule and to prioritize vehicles based on risk. As discussed at NHTSA's public information meeting 2 weeks ago, there are a number of factors that affect the risk an inflator will rupture and the risk that a rupture will cause serious injuries. Those factors include the age of the inflator, whether it has been located for extended periods in areas of high absolute humidity, and the position of the inflator, whether it's on the driver or passenger side. There's also an elevated risk in vehicles with both driver and passenger inflators that are under recall. The Coordinated Remedy Order assigns the 19 million vehicles under recall into one of 4 priority groups based on these risk factors. So this slide provides an overview of the priority groups. Priority Group 1, there we go. Priority Group 1 is highest risk. Priority Group 2 is an intermediate risk. Priority Groups 3 and 4 are lower risk and lowest risk compared to Priority Groups 1 and 2. But these inflators still pose an unreasonable risk to the public. As you can see, there are no green boxes on this chart. And so to be clear, that means there remains risk of inflator rupture for all 4 priority groups. The Coordinated Remedy Order also sets timelines by which manufacturers must have sufficient replacement parts available to meet demand for each priority group, and deadlines for completion of remedy programs. And so what's that schedule? The parts deadline for Priority Group 1 is March 2016, with sufficient parts required to be available for Priority Groups 1 through 3 by December 31st, 2016. Remedy completion deadlines begin in 2017 and end in 2019. It is our best estimate that this schedule accelerates remedy programs beyond what would have occurred without NHTSA's actions by roughly 2 years. The Coordinated Remedy Order also provides for an independent monitor who works for NHTSA to assist the agency oversight of the remedy programs and the manufacturer's compliance with the Coordinated Remedy Order. The second order NHTSA is issuing today relates to enforcement. In a consent order issued to Takata, the company has acknowledged certain violations of the Motor Vehicle Safety Act, and it has consented to a series of actions designed to address those violations and protect public safety. NHTSA's investigation uncovered a pattern by Takata of providing selective, incomplete, or inaccurate information to NHTSA. This behavior dates back at least to the agency's interactions with Takata in 2009, during the investigation into the timeliness of Honda's Takata inflator recall decision-making. As an example, Takata made the conscious decision to withhold from the agency information on 2 driver-side ruptures involving inflators that were substantially similar to the driver inflators being recalled by Honda. Takata's pattern of selective, incomplete, and inaccurate disclosures has continued to other, more recent interactions with the agency. For example, during a meeting in January 2012 about the Rupture recalls and Takata's root cause investigation, and during a vehicle inspection in Puerto Rico in April 2014, among other instances. This behavior has also been pervasive in Takata's dealing with its customers. Under the consent order, Takata agrees to pay the largest civil penalty in NHTSA's history, $200 million. It must pay $70 million in cash and remaining amounts if it violates the terms of NHTSA orders or the Safety Act. In setting this penalty amount, NHTSA considered a number of factors, including the company's agreement to take actions outlined in the consent order. Among those actions, Takata agrees to phase out production of new inflators using phase-stabilized ammonium nitrate phase propellant. In addition, the order directs Takata to issue recalls for all remaining ammonium nitrate inflators by a prescribed schedule unless the company can demonstrate it has identified the root cause of the ruptures or otherwise proven to NHTSA that its inflators are safe. Now, as shown in this slide, there should be closure on such a determination for all unrecalled inflators currently in the market no later than December 31st, 2019. So, in the absence of any new information, all of these inflators must eventually be recalled. Any future recalls under this consent order will be subject of risk assessments and prioritization similar to what's been described earlier. So, this is a brief summary of written agreements, and I refer all of you to the fact sheets and the copies of the orders we've provided for fuller detail. All of this material will be available on the special website we've set up at safercar.gov/recalls-spotlight. So let me close with a message to consumers. No one deserves to have an exploding airbag installed in their vehicle. A safety recall is a burden. It takes time and effort from busy lives. It can mean missed time at work or a long drive to a dealer, all to take your car in to repair a defect that never should have occurred in the first place. But the risk from these defective inflators to you and your family is significant, and that's why NHTSA is taking unprecedented steps to protect you. So please, take action. If you think your vehicle might be affected, go to safercar.gov and enter your vehicle identification number in our VIN lookup tool. If the VIN lookup says you have a recall, or if you receive a recall notice from your manufacturer, please call your dealer, ask for an appointment, and get the free repair. And now we'll take some questions.
Thank you. Dave Shepardson.
Can you tell us how many additional vehicles with the ammonium nitrate do you anticipate will need to be recalled as a result of the agreement?
Well, of course, initially we have about 19 million that are in the highest priority category. These are cars that we've been discussing for a while now here in relation to this Takata issue. But to be honest with you, as we go forward into the future on this, we'll have to figure out the true scope of this recall, because there are potentially millions more cars impacted. Mark, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Just that number is unknown. We would have to go through the same painstaking accounting procedure we went through this summer to come up with the current coordinated remedy to even have a sense of what that number would be.
Yes.
Is Takata currently putting in the inflators that you're telling them to phase out as part of their remedy? Is that currently what's being used?
So that is, in fact, what we're expecting Takata to do. And there are situations, depending on which manufacturer is involved and where within the geography of America people are, where someone may get some interim fix and have to come back and get a complete fix down the road. But our expectation is that, again, the priority one areas will get dealt with first, and we'll be able to get people out of these dangerous airbags into a more a safer environment.
Given the fact that you don't have a root cause yet, why are you still going after this type of ammonium nitrate compound?
Well, I think what's important about this step today is we're putting the burden on Takata to show that ammonium nitrate is safe. Heretofore, I think the presumption has been that it is, and we have enough suspicion about this substance to believe that there is risk to the consumers. And so unless and until they can prove that it's safe, we will not see ammonium nitrate in these airbags in the future.
Except it looks like you have a fairly long phase-out schedule, and if you're, even though you say you're accelerating the remedy, it's still quite a number of years before people will be able, everyone will be able to feel confident about these airbags. Is that really
Well,
as fast as we can go with this?
Let me be very clear. They're not going to be putting ammonium nitrate in new airbags going forward. That's number one. That's a big deal. And number two, we are getting it out of the most at-risk vehicles first. And so, yes, there's a phase-in period, but I think the sensible nature of this is that we're ultimately stopping them from putting it in the future, and also that we are dealing with the most dangerous and most risky folks first. Yeah.
On the coordinated remedy, you've laid out a schedule by which you're ordering the automakers to speed up repairs. To what extent did you negotiate that with the 12 automakers that are affected, and what extent was that just it's a decision to roll out that schedule?
Well, you know, it is ultimately our pushing that's gotten us to the point of having this agreement. The automakers have been involved in the conversation. We've certainly looked at the practical aspects of getting this recall implemented and executed effectively. That's played a role, and from all indications, both from the automakers as well as Takata, the schedules that are laid out in this order, in these orders, are ones that can be stood by.
Can you go into more detail about how this coordinated remedy process is being set up, how you might be expanding the sources of inflators?
Yes, Mark. Sure.
The public information meeting that we held a couple of weeks ago outlined for everybody the range of factors that we were considering. I think what's very strong about the remedy as it's been described now is that it has the particular priority groups outlined and also specifics of a schedule. What's good news here is that the manufacturers and the suppliers will maintain basically their accelerated production as came up. In fact, you asked the question last time, what about repair? We clearly identified that there are a sufficient number of repair opportunities in the current system, and so there's no expansion to sort of going beyond. But I think we have to keep highlighting, it was clear that there was a patchwork of what manufacturers were doing with the coordinated element that we've talked about with these priorities and the phase-in. We're looking at probably at least 2 years faster than if it had just gone on by itself.
So can you give us a sense, perspective, of how many people have been fired by Takata, how high up it went, and whether you're satisfied that, say like GM, that they've actually identified the people responsible for the problems?
Well, in answering this, I don't know specific numbers, by the way. Mark, I'll ask you to come up in a second. But let me put it this way. Remember when we first brought this issue to light, there was a lot of denial on the part of Takata. They were not running to say that they made a mistake. And their admission as part of this work today, I think, is a big glacial change from where they were before. And in addition to that, the concessions that we're getting in terms of having an independent monitor and the sheer scale of the fine and the remedies that are being put in place today, all together, I think evidence that this company is trying to turn a corner here, and we're going to make sure they actually do. The proof is in the pudding in terms of how many millions of cars get fixed with the kind of expeditious work that we expect this to happen. But I think it's fair to say that the actions of our NHTSA team have taken Takata from being in a kicking and screaming mode to being part of the solution, which is where we need them to be to get this fixed. Yep, good, good.
Time for one more, folks.
Yeah, sure.
To your knowledge, are there any vehicles, any current models in 2015, 2016 that cannot be sold now because of this?
So, I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I mean, but you say the inflators cannot be inserted in vehicles going forward, but they were currently making some. So does that mean the vehicles that were manufactured yesterday can be sold, but this vehicles that are manufactured tomorrow cannot be?
Well, look, any airbags that contain the substance today, again, absent proof from Takata that this is a safe substance, those cars are going to have to be fixed. And I think, again, a significant step that's being taken is that on a forward-going basis, ammonium nitrate will not be part of the inflators going forward. Thank you, everybody. Let me just also say, I understand that we are losing one of our regular DOT beat reporters. Dave Shepardson is going to be taking another role. And so, Dave, we appreciate your work, and thanks so much for the great attention you've given to transportation over the years. Thank you. Yep, thanks.